Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, on behalf of Great Afghanistan Movement, let me thank all my viewers for watching and commenting on my videos. In my last video, I had told you how Pakistan has been playing a dirty game to destabilize Afghanistan since its birth. Today, I want to tell you about the birth of Pakistan, its terrible consequences, and death of Pakistan. The birth of Pakistan took place after the partition of India. If we take a look at the 20th century, this century is called the century of partitions, where the partition of India, USSR, Yugoslavia, Germany, Czechoslovakia, Pakistan, and many more took place. But so far as the partition of India was concerned, it was unique because it brought trauma, violence, brutality, displacement, and a lot of future calamities, not only in South Asian region, but in the whole world as well. At this partition, millions of people were killed. Families torn apart, villages destroyed, and thousands were massacred. A lot of women were either killed, raped, or abducted. Former neighbors and friends were killing and mutilating one another. And it was also very difficult to adjust for the displaced people in the new place. Dear friends, the migration is usually taking place due to economic opportunities. But in case of India partition, migration took place just to save their lives. And even they didn't know to which country they belong to. They didn't have any passport. It was the world's biggest migration in the human history in one event. The majority of the families had split who never met again. Even a lot of families had killed own families to save their honors. Dear friend, the partition of India on the basis of Hindu and Muslims was impossible because Muslims were not concentrated in one part of India, but they were scattered throughout India. Before partition, there were 4,000 towns in India. And there was no town where Muslims and other communities with different faiths were not living. And there was great harmony amongst them in all those towns. The example was the 1857 mutiny, where all the communities were just Indians against the British Empire. The partition was on the name of religion, which was unprecedented in the world history. If we will go a little bit back in the history, from 800 to 1000 years, it will be difficult to find some serious incident where the Muslims were persecuted by Hindus and Hindus were persecuted by Muslims. When Islam arrived in India as a kind of political force, the majority of sultanates were ruled by Muslims, and there was no notion of Hindus and Muslims. And about all the rulers of sultanates were Muslims, including the 350 years of Pashtun dynasties in India. But after the British arrival in India, they started to create differences between these various communities to rule them. And especially, they vigorously felt it after the 1857 mutiny against the British Empire. The British organized a legal movement against the Deoband movement on religious front. And on political front, they organized All India Muslim League to counter the Indian National Congress, because both Deoband movement and Indian National Congress were against the British colony of India. At that time, the British didn't want to divide India. They just wanted to create differences between the Hindus and Muslims to rule them. Winston Churchill, then the Prime Minister of Britain, once openly said that I was not elected as the Prime Minister of Britain to divide into pieces the British Empire in India. But during the Second World War, when the British found if they would win the war, even then they won't be able to keep such a big country like India their colony. So they decided to leave India. But before leaving India, the British decided to divide it because the British needed another ideological country to counter ideological expansionist policy of former Soviet Union in that region. And also the British wanted to protect their interest in the Isle of Middle East to the new country Pakistan. For this purpose, they decided to use the name of Islam through such a person who had no connection with Islam at all. So they chose Muhammad Ali Jinnah, educated in Britain, who was not even a believer, and his throughout life was un-Islamic. Whiskey and other un-Islamic luxurious life was his everyday business, and he had nothing to do with Islam. Dear friends, a few months before the partition, one of the stooges of Jinnah, Khwaja Nizamuddin, who later became the second Governor General, as well as the second Prime Minister of Pakistan, told a British governor that he did not know what Pakistan means and that nobody in Muslim League knew about Pakistan. Even Jinnah himself didn't know anything about Pakistan. After Lahore Resolution in 1940, when Jinnah met with the then Viceroy asked him, "What do you want?" Jinnah told him, "I don't know. Give me a time." And even in the Lahore Resolution, the name of Pakistan was not mentioned at all. Ladies and gentlemen, to create a new country in the name of religion was unprecedented in the human history. But there was also another problem: how the new country will be run. Because Muslim Leaguers didn't know how to run the country. Neither Muhammad Ali Jinnah nor his stooges had any political support in those areas where Pakistan had to be established. In 1937 election, Muslim League had taken from 4 to 6% votes in the Muslim community. The Muslims of India were living with the other communities for hundreds of years with great harmony. And this was the time where the religion came to the rescue. Jinnah, being a non-believer, and the British used the religion for the unity of divided Muslim constituents. When Jinnah asked the support of religious scholars for Pakistan, they demanded the assurance that after the independence will be Islamic law in Pakistan. And Jinnah agreed. And even Jinnah had given written assurance to Pir of Manki in the Pushtun area of then the northwest frontier province, now known as Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. But how to run the new country? The British decided to use the same formula they had been using in British India. In British India, they had 200,000 army, where 40,000 were high-ranked British, and the remaining 61% were non-Hindus, where there were 70% Punjabi Muslims. There were 1,200 bureaucrats. Both army and bureaucrats had full support of the judiciary. And these three forces, the British had been ruling 400 million people in British India. That's why after the partition of India, in Pakistan, chiefs of army, navy and air force were British, and they started to prepare these three forces for Pakistan to use them in future for their own objectives. That's why Pakistan has always been governed by the combination of army, civil and military bureaucrats, because the army, judiciary and bureaucrats nexus with the British created Pakistan. So they took power of Pakistan. Jinnah chose to become Governor General rather than Prime Minister of Pakistan and sit in place a viceregal system of rule, while Nehru became Prime Minister in India with a real commitment to democracy. The former President of Pakistan, Iskandar Mirza, writes in his biography that once I told Jinnah to help the Muslim Leaguers because they had helped to create Pakistan. Jinnah annoyed and replied, "Nonsense. Pakistan has been created by me and my steno," because he knew that Pakistan had been given to him in the plate by the British. Dear friends, after the partition, Jinnah ordered to topple the democratic government in NWFP, Northwestern Frontier Province. Till that time, he was known as the great killer of the Muslims. But then, he also got the reward as the killer of democracy. Therefore, after independence, all political leaders from throughout Pakistan except Punjab were put in the jails. When in 1958, then the President of Pakistan, Iskandar Mirza, wanted to impose martial law in Pakistan, 10 days before the martial law, he invited the British High Commissioner and told him that after 10 days he was going to impose martial law. Iskandar Mirza also handed over the names of the full cabinet to him. This martial law was endorsed by the Justice Munir under the doctrine of necessity, and thus the Pakistan army, establishment and judiciary came on one page according to the pre-planned plan of the British Empire. Dear friends, but there was another big problem in Pakistan, which the British didn't want to solve deliberately, because they wanted Pakistan a weak state so that it will be dependent on them or on their allies forever. That problem was territorial problem. Pakistan was formed on the land of other countries. There were 5 provinces in Pakistan. 1.5 province belonged to Afghanistan. Balochistan was the land of Balochis. East Pakistan was the land of Bengalis. Punjab was separated from India, and the similar situation was in Sindh. So, the formation of Pakistan was an unnatural phenomenon. But any unnatural phenomenon cannot survive for a long time. And that was the reason that Pakistan was disintegrated in 1971, and the further disintegration is around the corner. Because we, the Pashtuns and Baloch, occupied by Pakistan, don't want to be a part of this terrorist and occupying state. We, the Pashtuns living in Pakistan, want to be an integral part of our motherland, Afghanistan. Dear friends, we Pashtuns and Baloch don't have any problem with each other. We have been living together for thousands of years side by side, just like brothers. And in Pakistan, anyone who wants to create problems between the Pashtuns and Baloch are working on the agenda of Pakistan Army, Pakistan Establishment, and Pakistan Intelligence Organization, ISI. We Pashtuns also don't have any problems with the minorities living with us on our land. They are our brothers. We strongly condemn their massacre by any terrorist organization. All these terrorist organizations are sponsored and supported by Pakistan Intelligence Organization, ISI. Ladies and gentlemen, the alliance between both armed and unarmed religious groups and ISI made these religious groups and terrorist organizations very powerful. It was claimed that Pakistan was formed for the Muslims of subcontinent. But why Muhammad Ali Jinnah, when delivering speech in the Constitutional Assembly on 11 August 1947, says, "We have many non-Muslims, Hindus, Christians, and Parsis, but now they are all Pakistanis. They will enjoy the same rights and privileges as any other citizen. You are free to go to your temples, to mosque, and to any other place of worship in this state of Pakistan. But before partition, he was proclaiming that Hindus and Muslims are two different nations. They have different religions. They have different cultures. So they cannot live together. But after independence, he says completely against his statement before the partition. Dear friends, sufferings and sacrifices are essential to get freedom. The Indian freedom fighters made a lot of sacrifices to gain freedom from British rule. The Indian freedom movement was a mass movement. But what Muhammad Ali Jinnah has sacrificed, the Indian freedom fighters would be in the jails and Muhammad Ali Jinnah would be enjoying luxurious life, drinking whiskey, attending the British high-level meetings and helping the British against those freedom fighters. He and his stooges were not put in the jail for 5 seconds by the British. Then how they can say that we got independence from British? Where is there a sacrifice for that? Dear friend, after 2 weeks of independence, there was cabinet meeting presided by Jinnah. However, he didn't have the right to do that because Liaquat Ali Khan was the prime minister. He had to do that. Protesting against it, Liaquat Ali Khan had even staged his resignation. In the meeting, it was decided to beg $2 billion from United States of America. They sent Pakistani economic expert Liaquat Ali to United States. Both Liaquat Ali and then the Pakistani ambassador in Washington, Asfahani, requested United States for $2 billion. From day one, Pakistan is a bigger state with a big begging bowl in hands. Since 1947, United States of America has given $40 billion to Pakistan. Can Pakistan show anything positive they have done with such a big amount? Of course not. Ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan received its freedom not through mass movement or through any positive sense of Pakistan nationality. Pakistan was born in intrigue. It was a unique product of a calculated British-Indian policy using the name of Islam. Pakistan emerged from the partitionist policy of a dying British colonialism. Pakistani elites inherited and adopted the Britain colonial model of administration with strong executives. They filled the power vacuum at the top, but it failed to address the issues of democracy, meaningful political, economic, and social change in Pakistan. Dear friends, if Pakistan was a state for all Muslims, then why more Muslims choose to stay in India rather than to migrate to Pakistan? It means that Pakistan died at its birth. Even the daughter of Muhammad Ali Jinnah, Dina Jinnah, refused to come to Pakistan and choose India as her motherland. Muhammad Ali Jinnah even couldn't convince his own daughter to migrate to Pakistan. Dear friends, Pakistan emerged on the name of Islam, but Islam was only used as a tool to justify the wrongdoings in Pakistan by the Pakistan army and establishment. And due to Islam, nobody could question anything. After all, Pakistan was Islamic. Therefore, anything that Pakistan did, from waging wars, avoiding elections, genocides, corruption, could not be criticized by anyone. Any criticism of Pakistan was criticism of Islam. Pakistan came into being in 1947 for Muslims, but Pakistan is a very dangerous country for the Muslims. Dear friends, the money poured to Pakistan during the Cold War time was used to strengthen the army, not for the developmental projects. In Pakistan, military and the intelligence services have played a leading role in building Pakistani national identity on the basis of religion since 1947. Dear friends, state apparatus started using religion and religious groups for political purposes. By lapsing of national security state, the sentiment against India was maintained to keep the people's mindset busy because hatred of India was needed as the justification for the wealth of Pakistan army and for the health of army business surviving on state handouts. However, Pakistan initiated 4 wars with India. And in all the wars, Pakistan was terribly defeated, especially the humiliating surrender of Pakistan army at Dhaka racecourse. And when the Indian generals were coming from India to attend the surrender event, Pakistani shameless army generals offered them an airport guard of honor. Dear friends, Pakistan army has always been more interested in making money rather than defending the state. They can easily conquer their own people. And out of 65 years, 33 years these generals ruled Pakistan. Dear friends, the Islam card was used by Pakistani elites, army and mullahs for their own personal interest. In Pakistan, the Punjabis and the refugees holding all the important posts saw their positions threatened by the prospect of constitution. The country was running without constitution because if there would be constitution, there would be democracy, then there would be elections, and then these posts would be occupied by the locals. But the Punjab army and Punjabi and refugees establishment didn't want to hand over power to anyone. Dear friends, Pakistan came into being on an anti-majority platform like against Hindus majority in India. However, Muslims were not in minority in India. They were the second majority. Pakistani fears of majority have shaped Pakistan's internal politics in crisis since independence. Britain left the subcontinent in 1947 and the mentality of Pakistani elites did not change. Pakistani elites continued to approach foreign and domestic affairs on the old basis. And thus, Pakistan built a policy on anti-majority. The central element in Pakistan elites thinking has always been the fear of majority. And East Pakistan is the best example. By the mid-1950s, the Punjabi army and refugees establishment looked around and feared the Bengali majority. As a result, East Pakistan became Bangladesh in 1971. When there was first free and fair election in 1971 in Pakistan, in India there had been 4 elections. But the 1971 election was also not recognized. Pakistani leaders for decades behaved as that Pakistan was Islam and Islam was Pakistan. West Pakistan used the Islamic slogan against Bengali too, but Bengali nationalism was not defeated. Bhutto's rise to power was also carried out on an anti-majority platform because Bengali majority was not recognized. For Pakistan army and establishment to gain and maintain power, the conception of morality, justice and truth mattered nothing. The anti-majority among ruling elites in Pakistan continued to shape Pakistan's internal affairs. Basically, the anti-majority theme was a British legacy which has dominated Pakistani elite thinking since 1947. Ladies and gentlemen, as the British had decided to use the name of Islam for Pakistan, Pakistan army and establishment are stuck to it. During the Zia-ul-Haq time, the Islamization of Pakistan army took place. The bureaucrats, the army, the mullahs with excess abdominal fat always used Islam for their narrow vested interests. There has always been very popular slogan, Pakistan ka matlab kya, la ilaha illallah, implying that Pakistan and Islam are one and the same. But what happened after the East Pakistan became Bangladesh? Islam was not defeated, but the people who had been using this religion for their vested interests were defeated. In Pakistan, only army was considered to be perfect to take power, and if politicians wanted to take power, they had to approach to army for some accommodation. And it was all done in the name of God. Dear friends, Pakistan Army has always functioned as a state within a state since mid-1950s. Due to army intervention in Pakistan, democracy has never flourished. In Pakistan, the democratic period has always been just the interval between the two martial laws. The corrupt military, corrupt civil and army establishment, corrupt elites, and corrupt political leaders of Pakistan are the real culprits, and the victims are the poor people of Pakistan. Dear friends, unfortunately, anything that Pakistan did was done in the name of Islam, and they compelled their people to be more and more Islamic. And thus, gradually, the non-Muslim minorities of Pakistan were squeezed out. They had no role in Islamic Pakistan. However, the elites, the rulers, influential people, and the army generals did not have to be all that Islamic. The elites stayed rich and the army became richer. This modern liberal lifestyle conveyed the impression of a progressive society to Western aid givers. From United States aid, the rich got money, the army got money and weapons, while the poor in Pakistan got madrasas, where the Islamic scholars, mullahs, ensured to make these poor students more and more Islamic. The mullahs are doubly happy. They preached jihad, the holy war against the enemy of Islam. In order to be good Muslim, Pakistani were urged to do jihad, not only internal, but external violence of the army general for the military domination. More and more Pakistani were needed to fight Pakistan war like Afghanistan and Kashmir. The army brass getting richer, needed men to do their fighting, and the mullahs get a lot of funds to ensure the delivery of any number of men to fight for Pakistan and Islam. Dear friends, each Islamic jihadi brought in these madrasas, in these religious schools, was ready to die for Islam. Pakistani army and mullah trained these poor students and sent them to die, but themselves got fatter and more powerful. Rich generals doing office job, while men from poor classes were trained, indoctrinated, and prepared for death. The Islam of Pakistani mullahs with excess fat abdomens in leagues with the fatty and lazy generals, helping the generals who are preaching Islam that would keep mullahs comfortable in this life, while their students were encouraged to seek pleasures of the afterlife obtained only by violence and death. But as all the Pakistani institutions failed, so the faith of Islam grew stronger. Dear friends, ordinary poor Pakistani people, under the cover of Islamic banner, eminently served the interest of rich, corrupt elites and corrupt army generals in maintaining their grip and preserving their business. Ladies and gentlemen, August 14, the country's Independence Day, is even more artificial and irritating than before. Now the majority of Pakistani feel the state should never have been found. The other provinces will soon leave the Punjab alone. Pakistan needs a soft balkanization. For instance, the detachment of Pukhtunkhwa province will merge with their motherland Afghanistan. The corrupt army generals, corrupt civil and military establishment have brought Pakistan to the brink of disintegration. No one can help now to save Pakistan. Pakistan is drowning in the sea of troubles. Pakistan has always been ruled by four interest groups or their coalition: corrupt army, corrupt bureaucracy, corrupt feudal lords, and corrupt industrial barons. The bond that unites them is only money, nothing else. Pakistani judges are notoriously conservative and have legitimized every coup with a bogus doctrine of necessity ruling. These judges are very corrupt. In the world, you can hire the liar, but in Pakistan, you can hire the judge. Dear friends, democracy has failed due to the unnecessary intervention by the Pakistan Army and ISI. Corrupt politicians also played their role to let down the democratic institutions. The army, as well as the intelligence agencies, remain the dominant force in the internal and external affairs of Pakistan. Every country has army, but in Pakistan, army has a country. Pakistan has troubled political history since it gained its independence. It has no future. There is continuous tension in elite mass and intra-elite power relationship since 1947. Dear friends, Pakistan has very serious territorial threat, economical threat, insurgency, and law and order situation. Since 1947, Pakistan has been involved in a number of territorial disputes. Pakistan has territorial disputes with Afghanistan, Balochistan, and India. And all these disputes are from colonial era. For 3 decades, the world community had always been turning blind eye to the nuclear program of Pakistan. Pakistan is a nuclear weapon state with a very bad record of proliferation. In Pakistan, the covert trade of nuclear technology was not the work of one man, but the foreign policy of a nation plotted and supervised by Pakistan's ruling military clique. The proliferator of Pakistan nuclear technology, Abdul Qadir Khan, was using the army and ISI offices, guards, and aircrafts. No way that army and ISI were not involved in this proliferation. The wife of Qadir Khan once said in an interview that nothing could go out from the Kahuta premises without the permission of ISI. And if something had to be sent somewhere, ISI had to inspect and then pack by themselves. Dear friends, much of the program of the nuclear bomb was even funded by US aid. And the person Qadir Khan, who was involved in the proliferation of doomsday nuclear technology, is known as the father of the Islamic bomb and hero of Pakistan. However, he must be brought into justice and put behind the bars. Dear friends, Pakistani ISI had always been in very good connections with Al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden. Pakistan had helped Taliban to maintain good relationship with Al-Qaeda. In 1998, when United States cruise missiles slammed into the Osama bin Laden training camp in Afghanistan, 2 ISI Punjabi officers were killed in their raid. What they were doing in Osama bin Laden training camp? It is a question. It means, according to the agenda of Al-Qaeda, they had been training the terrorists for terrorist activities in the world. 2 correspondents, Christopher and Ahmad Rashid, when met with the former DG ISI, General Hamid Gul in 2001, Christopher asked the general if he was not playing with fire by inviting Muslim radicals from your allied Islamic countries. Would these radicals not create decisions in their own countries, and whether these foreigners from other countries will not take the jihad home back? Would it not endanger the Pakistan foreign policy? What the general replied, listen my dear brothers, we are fighting a jihad, and this is the first Islamic international brigade in the modern era. The communists have their own international brigade. The West has NATO. Why can't the Muslims unite and form a united front? Dear friends, that's why Pakistan is the capital of international terrorist world. Terrorists come on visit visa to Pakistan. They are being trained here, sent back for their terrorist activities in the world. The history of Pakistan is the history of blunders, plunders, surrenders, and claimers. Ladies and gentlemen, in 2001, Bush administration portrayed Pakistan as the epicenter of global instability, a host and pattern for Islamic terrorism, ruled by a military clique that was raising capital by selling weapons of mass destruction. In Bush era, the United States sat on intelligence, that characterize Pakistan as the most dangerous proliferator. The International Atomic Energy Agency (IAEA) and Israel had protested at that time against it, but Bush administration was stuck with the Musharraf administration. At that time, once Benazir Bhutto was asked, "Why are you supporting Musharraf?" her answer was, "Because the Americans asked me to do that." South Asian experts warned White House that Pakistan remained the major problem, so something had to be done. But when action was called for, not only United States of America, but the world as a whole was also impotent. Dear friends, Pakistani state is in a very weak position because it cannot supply the basic needs of the people on any level. 60% of the children in Pakistan born stunted. Pakistan is bombing their own people. No education, no political, no economic, and no life security is provided by Pakistan to its own people. Pakistan's economy is stagnating. Its demographic indicators look bad. It is time bomb for Pakistan. According to the recent survey, the population of Pakistan is 210 million people. Half of it is under 21 years of age. 1/3 of them have never been in any school. Every one of the 3 Pakistani lives below the poverty level. And every one of the 3 is living just above the poverty level, who can slip anytime below the poverty level. More and more people in Pakistan are slipping into poverty. The middle class is shrinking. This is a very dangerous trend, as the middle class is the backbone for any progressive society, and its absence marks a feudal state. The Islamic fundamentalists are flourishing day by day in Pakistan. 9 of 10 Pakistanis are poor and uneducated. Thus, we can define that average Pakistani is an illiterate and poor Muslim. Religion helps in the survival of the corrupt rich, the corrupt army, corrupt political leaders, and greedy mullahs in Pakistan. Military is fueling the Islamic groups in Afghanistan, Kashmir, and India for their proxy war. Suicide bombers are trained by Pakistani army. The retired generals are working with Taliban by the army and ISI directions, and they are not traceable. Dear friends, military was deeply involved what Abdul Qadir Khan was doing to sell nuclear technology. And the money generated by selling the nuclear technology was used to expand the budget of ISI for supporting Taliban to destabilize Afghanistan. Many of the terrorist groups have long-standing ties with the Pakistan Army and its intelligence organization ISI. Pakistan, the birthplace of global jihad, and now is the epicenter of terror. Pakistan Army is preparing insurgents for insurgency in Afghanistan. Due to this, a lot of Pakistani were mobilized and radicalized. Dear friends, Punjabi always believed Pakistan was created to serve their interests first and foremost. Dear friends, the military doesn't have any interest in building up the institution of civil society. All institutions in Pakistan are collapsed. Now the vacuum is filled by the extremists. Taliban and Al-Qaeda have always been using Pakistan as their home base. Al-Qaeda publicly put jihad in Kashmir against India on their agenda to repay years of Pakistan support and protection. Pakistan has, as a matter of state policy, actively supported jihadists and militants in its neighbors. Pakistan Army and ISI provided Taliban and Al-Qaeda all the facilities to reorganize themselves against NATO and USA in Afghanistan. Pakistan was providing them the secret strategic information. The military leadership of Pakistan has always been the allies of the enemies of the United States of America, like Taliban and Al-Qaeda. But even then, United States is giving money to Pakistan to survive. Dear friends, Important circles in Pakistan have never given up the aspiration to run Afghanistan as a client or dependent or proxy state. And this colonial mindset is especially well entrenched among senior army officers and in the ISI. With its declining social indicator, crumbling infrastructure, and the military's misplaced priorities, Pakistan is a deeply troubled state. Pakistan could be a major disruptive force in South, Southwest, and Central Asia, ruining India's peaceful rise and destabilizing the Persian Gulf and Central Asian regions. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell the world community that Pakistan is divided, disorganized, frustrating, confusing, corrupt, violent, hell for the minorities, and home to the extremely dangerous forms of extremism and terrorism. That's why Pakistan must be isolated, engaged, strike, and disintegrated. Otherwise, then it will be too late. In the real sense, Pakistan as a state has died. Long live Great Afghanistan movement and long live Great Afghanistan.